back again, this time for a book haul. So this is my third video today. So we'll see how far I get before I start running out of energy and the ability to articulate myself, because it is starting to get kind of late. So we'll see how far I get here. So the first books that I'll show you are some books that I picked up at Half Price Bookstore last week, I believe. The first one, and probably the most interesting one out of the bunch, is Carl Sagan's The Dragons of Eden. It's a first edition. I was super thrilled to find this. It is not in good shape. It is tattered and definitely showing its age. But I have already read this and I absolutely loved it. This was so good. It was incredible. I just had so much fun reading this, and it was so interesting. And Carl Sagan's writing is just so engaging. Now the science is definitely out of date here. It is definitely showing its age. I think it was published in 1977. I'll correct that on the screen if I'm wrong there. But yeah, it's definitely out of date, but worth reading. Just absolutely worth reading. And I'm kind of on a mission to read every book that Carl Sagan has published. So I think this is my third Carl Sagan. I think my third. So yeah, I was super pleased with it. It's my favorite one so far. Okay, then I found a couple of Star Trek books. The novelization of All Good Things in hardback. And just in case you don't know, that was the final 2-part episode of Star Trek TNG. The other Star Trek book is Myriad Universes, which is a bind-up of 3 stories that have to do with what the outcomes would have been in certain situations if different decisions had been made. So I thought that sounded like an interesting premise for Star Trek stories, so I picked it up. Then I came across this book that really piqued my interest. It's called Isaac Asimov Fantasy, edited by Shauna McCarthy. Now, I do not know what to expect from this book. I don't know why it has Isaac Asimov's name on it. I will find out. But it had some interesting authors. I liked the author list here. We have Connie Willis, George R.R. Martin, Tanith Lee, Lucius Shepard, and John Kessel. Plus, I really, really liked the cover. I think the cover is spectacular. Then I found this John Varley book called The Ophuchi Hotline. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. The Ophuchi Hotline is my best guess. But this little book club edition is real thin. It sounded interesting. The premise is that there are multiple universes and they can communicate with each other in some way. And something about the main character in the book is a female who I believe is a criminal on the run in most of the universes in which she exists. So something to do with that. Sounded like it would be interesting. Wouldn't be a long read, so I picked it up. Then I came across this little bind-up of Arthur C. Clarke. It has Sands of Mars and Prelude to Space and 16 short stories, all in this bind-up. And of course, when I saw this, it made me think of Scott Bryant. So there was no way I wasn't going to pick this up. I will tell you, though, they were asking too much money for this book, and I was not happy with the price. It's not in good shape. It's falling apart. Let me show you. See, it's falling apart right at the spine there. The manager did not want to come down, but eventually she did end up discounting my entire purchase so that at the end of the day, the money I saved made this book only end up costing $2. So I was happy. Okay, another book that I picked up was a Star Wars novel. I really only read Star Trek fiction. However, this one looked too good to pass up. It's called Splinter of the Mind's Eye, and it was written by Alan Dean Foster, so he's a reliable author. And this is like an alternate second original trilogy episode. So it's like a replacement for Empire Strikes Back. And I really wanted to know what the alternative storyline was. So I picked this up and intend to read this sometime soon, maybe around Christmas time. The next book is A Morbid Taste for Bones by Ellis Peter, which is the first book in the Brother Cadfill series. This was a buddy read with Mark Richardson over at Richardson Reads, and I'll have his channel linked down in my description. I really, really enjoyed this. It's about a monk in medieval times, and originally I thought that he was a monk who solved murder cases, so he would be like a medieval monk detective. That's actually not what it turned out to be, at least in this story. The murder happens, and he does solve the murder, murder, essentially, and handles the situation. However, this murder just happened in his vicinity. It's not like he was actually, looking for cases to solve or anything like that, which is what I expected. However, I really liked it. I thought this was a good time, and I'm going to continue on with the series, and maybe at some point I'll get through all of them. Okay, so these next books make me excited. So I saw this book, Moonbound by Robin Sloan, somewhere. I don't know where. And I thought it sounded good, but I wasn't sure about it because I had not read the author before. And it was a brand new book in hardback, so you're paying brand new hardback price. And I didn't want to pay the money for it unless I was reasonably sure that I was going to get some kind of enjoyment out of it. So I looked to see what else this author had written, because I thought maybe if I read something else he's written, then I could judge from there whether or not I want to pay the new hardback money for this book. And I came across this one, Sourdough by Robin Sloan. Now, I had looked at this book a number of times, and I'd really been on the fence about reading it. I thought, well, it sounds like I might like it, but it also seems like it could go horribly wrong if it wasn't done well. And I wasn't sure. So I thought, okay, well, I will read this. It's not that long. I already had an interest in reading it anyway. I picked it up, absolutely loved it. This is one of the best books I have ever read in my entire life. I loved this book so much. It was so good. It was quirky. It was funny. It was hopeful. I just really, really enjoyed it. I liked the character. I liked the writing style. I like all of the things that happen in the book. I haven't even told you what it's about, have I? So this is about a girl who is like a high-end, I don't know what her title was, but she's a computer programmer, and she takes this job in San Francisco working for this company who does robotic arms. And she's not happy at the job. She's working extremely long hours until late in the night, sometimes even spending the night in there. And the whole entire culture of this place is work yourself to death, essentially. She starts getting stomach pain. And she finds this takeout place that doesn't have any seating inside. She doesn't even know where it's located, but she sees the advertisement for it, and she orders this soup with this sourdough bread, and she absolutely loves it. And it makes her stomach feel better, and it makes her feel so happy inside. And she just becomes really addicted to it, and she eats it every day. And it's two brothers who are making and delivering this food. And they don't have a restaurant. They're essentially doing it out of their house. So it's kind of under the table. And I don't know how much else I should tell you. I don't know how much is going to be a spoiler. Oh, you know what? Okay, I know what I can tell you without spoiling anything. So these brothers end up getting deported. But before they leave, they teach her how to make the bread because she loves it so much, and she was like their number one customer. So she starts making this bread, and she gets very obsessed with making this bread. So that is all non-spoilerly stuff so that you will know what this book is about. And it is so good. I'll tell you what, it's been a while since I have read writing that I enjoyed this much. It was so good, but I'm really rambling on, and I'm taking up time in this video. So I don't want the video to be like 30 minutes long. So anyway, so I read this, loved it. So I went ahead and did in fact pay the new hardback price for this book, Moonbound. And if it's even half as good as Sourdough, it will be worth the money that I paid for it. Okay, another book I picked up was Grendel by John Gardner. So I'm very, very excited to read this. I'm dying to read this book. But before I read it, I want to reread Beowulf. So everything that happened in that book is fresh in my mind when I go into it. Now, I'm hoping I'm not overhyping this book inside myself because I have this all built up as being this really fantastic read that I'm absolutely going to love. So hopefully I'm not disappointed. Okay, another book that I actually pre-ordered this. I've been looking forward to this for a while. So this is the Iliad, translated by Emily Wilson. I have Emily Wilson's The Odyssey. And now that I have both books, I've got to carve out some time, maybe in January of next year, to read both of these back to back because I hear really good things about them and this translator. Okay, the next book is Hera by Jennifer Saint. So I have another book that this author has written. I think she is the one who wrote Ariadne. I believe is how you pronounce that. And actually, I have like a whole string of newer books that are based in Greek myth. So one of these days, I'm going to pick a month and I'm just going to read all of my Greek myth-based fiction, just kind of like I did with my vampire books last year. Okay, another book that I am super pleased to get is called Logical Fantasy, The Many Worlds of John Wyndham, which is a collection of short stories by John Wyndham, including one story that was, I believe, published in a magazine, but it wasn't put in any other anthology or collection of short stories. So I didn't know it when I bought this book, but apparently it's a limited edition. There was only 1,000 copies of this book printed. Mine is number 748. I didn't know that when I got it. I got it from Barnes & Noble. So I am extra pleased to have a copy of this. Okay, another book I picked up is called There Are No Saints by Sophie Lark. So if I remember correctly, this is a stalker story, and I really like books about stalkers, or really anything, movies too, any stories about stalkers. I believe the male character in this is a serial killer. I could be wrong about his being a serial killer, but I'm pretty sure he's a serial killer. And he meets this girl who's lonely, and I believe she's broke, and she's an artist, and he kind of falls for her, and he starts stalking her. And I believe there's some kind of a twisted romance that happens as a result. So I'm looking forward to reading this at some point when I'm in the mood for this kind of book. Okay, and the next book is called Past Crimes by Jason Pinter. I don't remember where I heard about this book, but the premise sounds really interesting. So it's in a dystopian type future where most people are interacting online or virtually. They have a reality TV show where they have put implants in the minds of the criminals so that the viewers can experience their crimes firsthand. I might not have that exactly correct, but it is something very similar to that. So I thought that sounded like a really cool premise. And so I'm going to read this maybe in November. I will read this one. Then I got a number of thrillers that I'll just kind of quickly go through because honestly, I don't remember what most of these are about. So this one is A Talent for Murder by Peter Swanson. I don't remember what this one is about, but I do read thrillers when I want to read a book that I don't have to really focus on or think about too much. So this sounded good to me, evidently, so I picked it up. The next one is Middle of the Night by Riley Sager. Again, I don't remember what this is about, but obviously it sounded interesting to me. And then I have Incidents Around the House by Josh Malerman. I do remember what this one is about because this one sounds like it's going to be really good. I've only read one book by Josh Malerman. I'm not like a huge Josh Malerman fan. None of his books sound interesting to me except for this one called Goblin, which I did read and I did like. It was a series of short stories that all take place in this one particular town and they all kind of tie together at the end. And that actually was quite good. I did like it. So anyways, this one is a ghost story and I believe the ghost is haunting the little girl. And I do love a good ghost story, and this one sounds like it is going to be good. So I'll probably pick this one up before I pick up any of the others. Then I got Kill for Me, Kill for You by Steve Kavanaugh. This one is about two women who randomly meet each other, and they decide to each kill a person in the other's life that has caused them some kind of problem, which is a very known and overly done premise for a book, but it still sounded like it would be a good time, so I picked it up. Then we have Murder Road by Simone St. James. Now, I like Simone St. James. I have a number of her books. I have, what's the one? Oh, The Sundown Motel. Loved that book. I have The Broken Girls, The Book of Cold Cases. Maybe that's the only three I have. I'm looking at my shelf over there, and I know there's some behind there, but I can't remember what's back there. So I think I may have just those three. I might have a fourth one that I'm forgetting. But since I do like her as an author, I picked up Murder Road. It sounds like it's going to be good, and plus I trust that author. Okay, so that's all the books I'm going to cover in this video. This is probably going to be a 20-minute video, so that's about long enough. And I do have more books that I want to go over, but I'll save them for another video, and I'll call this the end.